Since 2021, Chinese households have lost between $18 and $20 trillion in property wealth. This chart tracks China's real residential price index over the last 2 decades. The peak has been wiped out, and the index has plummeted below where it was 20 years ago. Evergrande is in liquidation, and China Vanke has come under state control after recording severe losses. This was a slow, agonizing structural unraveling that ground the industry down over 5 years. It raises the question of how a market with such rapid momentum could collapse in on itself without a sudden external shock. The first decision involves the pre-sale system. Developers collected full upfront payments from buyers for homes that existed only on paper. Instead of using that cash to complete the buyer's unit, developers used the funds, plus heavy borrowing, to purchase new land for even more future projects. The cycle broke in 2020 when Beijing introduced stricter lending rules to curb the industry's massive debt. Without access to new loans, over-leveraged developers lacked the capital to finish the units they had already sold, leading to widespread defaults. The industry was operating as a speculative pyramid, reliant on a constant stream of future sales to cover past promises. The second failure point was in local government. Municipalities became addicted to land sales as their primary source of revenue. This land revenue was the lifeblood for public spending and infrastructure projects across the country. When the 2020 lending rules paralyzed developers, demand for municipal land evaporated instantly. This left massive holes in municipal finances, exposing local governments to their own severe debt crises. The property crash broke the very mechanism that local governments use to fund themselves. Finally, developers built far faster than the population required. This oversupply was most visible in the rows of residential blocks stretching across the landscapes outside major cities. As development stalled, buyers began boycotting their mortgage payments in protest. These boycotts shattered buyer confidence, removing the final psychological pillar keeping the market afloat. Building based on speculative investment rather than verifiable demand creates ghost cities rather than sustainable wealth. We can see the stakes of these lessons by looking at West Africa's largest real estate market, Nigeria. The conditions here look like the polar opposite of China. Nigeria faces a housing deficit of 28 million units. It is a common macro myth that high demand and a massive deficit make a market immune to a crash. However, looking at how some developers are currently managing capital, we see the same patterns of debt-driven expansion and off-plan risk that preceded the Chinese crisis. A housing deficit of 28 million units cannot save a market if the financial machinery delivering those homes is structurally flawed. The primary risk on the Nigerian watch list is the off-plan payment plan. Risk spikes when a developer uses a new buyer's deposit to fund a previous delayed project. There is also the risk of rapid scaling based on speculative future sales rather than verified contracted demand. In Nigeria, title integrity is a third distinct risk. Disputed ownership and forged documentation can destroy buyer trust as quickly as a construction delay. To avoid the Chinese trap, developers must ring-fence project financing. Revenue from a new project should never be used to cover past delays. Developers must treat trust, through escrow accounts and verified titles, as their core product. Establishing financial discipline during a market boom is far easier than trying to unwind a structural debt crisis after a crash.